name is... What? Suicide Silence is a deathcore band based out of California, which really needs no introduction, as they really were the deathcore band during what I will call, with some irony, the genre's heyday. But as anyone familiar with the band knows, the band's driving force was their former frontman Mitch Lucker, who combined a natural talent for extreme vocals with an approachable charisma that was somewhat unusual for a member of an extreme metal band. Very sadly, however, Mitch passed away in 2012. And since his passing and the addition of the vocalist Eddie Hermida, the general consensus seems to be that the band has lost a step, experimenting on their self-titled album with some new metal sounds that were, at best, sort of lukewarm, and at worst, absolutely meme-worthy.
Teehee.
But now the band has returned with a new album titled Become the Hunter, and today we're going to review it. I, admittedly, have not enjoyed any of the music that the band has put out since Eddie joined as the vocalist. But I was drawn to this record after the release of the singles Meltdown and Love Me to Death, both of which suggested a return to a sound much closer to their first album, The Cleansing, than anything that they've done since. And in large part, that has proved to be true, as with this album we get 11 tracks filled to the brim with down-tuned chugging and throat-tearing screams, all articulated through a mix that is just a little bit crunchy and rough around the edges, in the same way that a Whitechapel or Carnifex record was circa 2008. And the vocals on this record are certainly an improvement above Eddie's last outing with the band, as on this record we hear him sounding more like Mitch than he ever has before. His high screams approaching the realm of the coveted whistle tone at a couple of points on the songs Two Steps and Love Me to Death, and for a single moment at the end of the title track Become the Hunter, he actually manages to replicate the toilet bowl low that Mitch was known for. And all of this leads me to believe that the band was actively attempting to recapture the sound that made them popular in the first place. And for the most part, this is very refreshing, providing us with a competent and safe album that might even erode Doris from fans' memory, but it also causes the album to be a little bit one-note and repetitive. This is especially true with the chugging riffs that drive most of the songs musically, and the lyrics about becoming some sort of violent monster because of pain inflicted upon you, which drive the album thematically, both of which I feel are completely interchangeable with virtually any other deathcore album that was released between 2006 and 2010. And in that way, I actually feel quite similar listening to this record as I did when I first heard Metallica's Hardwired to Self-Destruct. Yes, it's competent and enjoyable. Yes, it's a return to form. But it's also quite stale and doesn't offer anything new for music fans who weren't die-hard fans of the band to begin with. Now, that's not to say that the album is completely devoid of experimentation, as we do hear the guitars playing around with some very noodling leads in songs such as The Scythe and Obscene Serene, and Eddie Hermida's vocal performance is more varied and nuanced than it has been previously, with him tapping into some very raw, human voice inclusive mids on songs such as In Hiding and Skin Tight. Additionally, I have to give praise to the drumming on this entire record, as it's very dynamic without coming off as showy, and it's mixed to feel and sound very organic, which sets it apart from the very mechanical, obviously computer-generated drumming that's been popping up in metalcore and deathcore for the last decade or so. But ultimately, I can't say that this record does very much to put this band back ahead of the pack, more or less placing them beside it by bringing back some abandoned sounds that are refreshing to hear, but not at all exciting. Overall, I'm happy that this record exists. And I definitely recommend it if you're a longtime fan of the band or if you're just nostalgic for the Brutal Kid era of deathcore around 2007. But I can't say that I personally found the album all that outstanding in a vacuum. My final score is a much unprejudiced 6 out of 10, and with that, see ya.